The Winchester rifle pressed cold against Olivia Gardner's shoulder as she stared down three men trying to steal her cattle. And she knew without question that pulling the trigger would change everything about the fragile life she had built in Montana Territory in the summer of 1878. "Madam, you best put that gun down before someone gets hurt," the tallest of the three said, his hand hovering near his holster. The sun beat down mercilessly on the open range 5 miles west of Concordia, a growing town nestled in the valley where Olivia had staked her claim 2 years prior after her father's death. "Those are my cattle," Olivia said, her voice steady despite the hammering of her heart. "You're on my land. Leave now and we'll call this a misunderstanding." The man laughed, a sound like gravel in a tin cup. "Your land? A woman out here playing rancher, that's rich." Olivia's finger tightened on the trigger. She had spent 2 years proving herself, working sunrise to sunset, refusing to sell to the men who circled like vultures. Her father, Thomas Gardner, had been a dreamer who saw potential in this wild country. He had moved them west from Ohio when she was 16, after her mother's death. 4 years building something real, then a fever took him, leaving Olivia alone at 20 with 300 acres and a stubborn determination that surprised even her. "I said leave." She lowered her aim slightly, firing a shot that kicked up dust between the horse's hooves. The animals spooked, and chaos erupted. The men cursed, fighting to control their mounts, and in those precious seconds, Olivia heard hoofbeats approaching fast from the east. A rider appeared over the ridge, moving with the kind of easy confidence that came from a lifetime in the saddle. He was tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a dusty brown hat that shadowed his face. As he drew closer, Olivia could see he was young, probably not yet 30, with dark hair and a strong jaw. He reined in his horse, a magnificent bay gelding, and surveyed the situation with eyes the color of creek stone. "Gentlemen," he said, his voice carrying an authority that made the would-be thieves pause. "Looks like the lady asked you to leave." "This ain't your concern, stranger," the tall man said, though his bravado had diminished. "I'm making it my concern." The newcomer's hand rested casually on his own gun. "Name's Zachary Lewis. I'm the new deputy out of Concordia. Sheriff Morgan sent me to check on some reported rustling in this area. Funny how I find you three on Miss Gardner's land, trying to make off with her stock." Olivia's eyebrows rose slightly. She had heard the sheriff had hired help, but she had not met the man until now. The three rustlers exchanged glances, clearly reconsidering their options. "We were just passing through," the tall man muttered. "Then keep passing," Zachary said. "And if I see you in this county again, you'll be spending time in a cell." The men retreated, spurring their horses south toward the territorial border. Olivia lowered her rifle, her arms suddenly trembling from the sustained tension. She took a slow breath, willing herself to remain composed. Zachary dismounted, removing his hat. He was handsome in a rugged way, with sun-weathered skin and eyes that held genuine concern. "Miss Gardner, are you all right?" "I'm fine," Olivia said, straightening her spine. "I had the situation handled." "I don't doubt it," he said, and she detected no mockery in his tone. "I've heard about you. Sheriff Morgan says you're one of the toughest ranchers in the county, man or woman." Olivia studied him, looking for the usual condescension she received from men, but found none. "Thank you for your assistance, Deputy Lewis. Though I should mention I don't need a man riding to my rescue. I've been managing on my own for 2 years. I can see that." He glanced at her rifle, then at the determined set of her jaw. "Sheriff sent me out here because we've had reports of an organized gang working the area. Those three likely aren't working alone. You should be careful." "I'm always careful." Olivia slung her rifle over her shoulder. "This land is all I have. My father and I built this ranch from nothing. I won't lose it to thieves or anyone else who thinks a woman can't hold what's hers." Zachary nodded slowly. "I respect that, but being careful doesn't mean being alone. The sheriff's office is here to help all the ranchers in the valley, you included." There was something in the way he spoke that made Olivia pause. Most men either dismissed her outright or looked at her like she was a curiosity, a woman playing at a man's work. Zachary Lewis simply looked at her like she was a rancher who might need the same assistance any other rancher would. "Where are you from, Deputy?" she asked. "Texas originally. Worked cattle there until I was 20. Then I spent some years as a lawman in Kansas. Dodge City for a while, then smaller towns. I came to Montana looking for something different, quieter maybe." He smiled slightly. "Though it seems trouble follows wherever people go." "Montana's not quiet if you're paying attention," Olivia said. "It's hard country. It demands everything you have. You sound like you understand that." His eyes met hers and Olivia felt something shift, a recognition of sorts. This man knew what it meant to struggle, to work for something with your whole being. "I do." She hesitated, then added, "I should get these cattle back to the northern pasture. Thank you again, Deputy Zachary," he said. "And if it's all right with you, I'd like to ride the perimeter of your land before I head back to town, just to make sure those three didn't leave any friends behind." Olivia wanted to refuse, to assert her independence, but practicality won out. "All right. The northern fence line is the most vulnerable. I've been meaning to reinforce it but haven't had time." "I could help with that," Zachary offered. "I'm handy with fence work. I can't pay you. I'm not asking for payment. I'm offering as a neighbor helping a neighbor." "That's how things work out here, isn't it?" Olivia considered him for a long moment. She had grown accustomed to solitude, to relying only on herself. Accepting help felt like admitting weakness. But there was something about Zachary Lewis that made her want to trust him, and that frightened her more than the rustlers had. "All right," she said finally. "But I work alongside anyone who works my land. I won't stand idle while someone else does what I should be doing." "Wouldn't expect anything else." Zachary mounted his horse with fluid grace. "Lead the way, Miss Gardner." "Olivia," she said, surprising herself. "If you're going to be working my fence, you might as well call me by my name." They rode in companionable silence, Olivia guiding her cattle back toward better grazing while Zachary kept watch. The sun climbed higher, baking the earth, and sweat trickled down Olivia's back beneath her practical cotton shirt. She wore trousers, which scandalized the town women, but she had learned early that skirts and ranch work did not mix. Her dark hair was braided and pinned up under a wide-brimmed hat, and her hands were calloused from work. She was aware of Zachary's presence beside her, the easy way he sat his horse, the alertness in his gaze as he scanned the horizon. He was a man comfortable in his own skin, confident without arrogance. She found herself curious about him, about what had brought him to Montana territory, but she did not ask. Curiosity led to conversation, conversation led to connection, and connection was dangerous. When they reached the northern fence line, Olivia could see immediately where posts had weakened and wire had sagged. She dismounted, tying her horse to a sturdy post, and began assessing the damage. "Looks like someone's been cutting the wire," Zachary observed, crouching to examine a section. "See these marks? Too clean to be weather or animals." Olivia's jaw tightened. "The same gang you mentioned, likely. They weaken your defenses, then come back later to drive off your stock. It's a common tactic." He stood, meeting her eyes. "You've got enemies, Olivia. Men who want your land or resent that you're making a go of it when they think you shouldn't be here." "I know." Her voice was flat. "I get reminded of it every time I go into town. The merchants are polite enough, but the other ranchers, they make it clear they think I should sell out and move back east, find a husband, become respectable." "And you don't want that?" Olivia laughed, a sharp sound without much humor. "I don't want to be owned, if that's what you mean. My father raised me to think for myself, to work hard, to believe I could do anything a man could do. Then he died and I discovered the world doesn't share that belief. But I won't let them force me out. This land is mine, legally purchased and paid for. I'll defend it with everything I have." Zachary was quiet for a moment, studying her with those steady gray eyes. "You shouldn't have to fight alone. I've managed so far." "Have you?" He gestured at the cut fence. "Someone's been sabotaging your ranch, Olivia. Those men today were bold enough to try stealing your cattle in broad daylight. It's escalating. You're tough, I can see that, but even the toughest person needs allies." Olivia felt a familiar frustration rise in her chest. "What do you want me to say? That I'm grateful? That I need a man to protect me? Because I won't say those things. I've worked too hard to prove I don't need anyone. I don't want you to say anything except yes, you'll accept help when it's offered in good faith." Zachary's voice remained calm, patient. "There's no shame in that. Strength isn't about doing everything alone. It's about knowing when to stand firm and when to let others stand with you." The words struck something deep in Olivia, a loneliness she rarely acknowledged. She had been alone for 2 years, truly alone in a way that went beyond physical solitude. She had no close friends, no family, no one she could turn to in moments of doubt or fear. She had built walls around herself, convincing herself they were armor when perhaps they were simply a prison. "All right," she said quietly. "Help me fix the fence." They worked through the afternoon, replacing damaged posts and restringing wire. Olivia appreciated that Zachary did not try to take over, did not treat her like she was fragile or incapable. He worked beside her as an equal, taking direction when she gave it, offering suggestions based on his own experience. They fell into an easy rhythm, and Olivia found herself relaxing in his presence. "Tell me about Texas," she said as they stretched a new section of wire taut. "What was it like?" "Hot," Zachary said with a slight grin. "And dry, though in a different way than Montana. My family had a ranch outside San Antonio, not as big as some, but we did all right. I learned to work cattle before I could properly read." "Why did you leave?" His expression grew more serious. "My parents died when I was 20. Cholera swept through our area. After they were gone, my older brother inherited the ranch, and he had his own ideas about how to run it. We didn't see eye to eye, so I took my share and headed north. Figured I'd make my own way." "I'm sorry about your parents," Olivia said softly. "Thank you. It was 8 years ago, but some losses don't fade much with time." He secured the wire and moved to the next post. "What about your mother? You mentioned your father, but not her." "She died when I was 16. Pneumonia. After that, it was just father and me. He was a lawyer in Ohio, but after mother died, he couldn't stand being in the same house, the same town. He sold everything and brought us west. He had this vision of starting fresh, building something new. I think he was running from grief, but he found purpose in the land. He taught me everything about ranching that he learned himself. He must have been an unusual man, teaching his daughter to work cattle. He was." Olivia smiled, remembering. "He said there was no good reason why I shouldn't learn to do anything I set my mind to. He never treated me like I was less capable because I was female. He just expected I'd work hard and learn, same as he did. He sounds like he was a good father. The best." Olivia felt the familiar ache of loss. "When he died, I thought about leaving, selling the ranch, going back to Ohio, trying to resume some kind of normal life. But this place had gotten into my blood. I couldn't imagine giving it up, letting all his dreams die with him, so I stayed. I'm glad you did, Zachary said, and something in his tone made her look up. He was watching her with an expression she could not quite read, something warm and admiring. The world needs people who refuse to give up on their dreams. Olivia felt heat rise in her cheeks that had nothing to do with the sun. She turned back to her work, suddenly flustered. We should finish before the light fails. They completed the repairs as the sun descended toward the western peaks. Olivia's arms ached and her back protested, but there was satisfaction in seeing the fence restored, her boundary secure once more. Zachary gathered his tools, returning them to his saddlebags with efficient movements. "Thank you," Olivia said as they prepared to leave, "for your help today. Both with the rustlers and the fence. You're welcome." Zachary mounted his horse, settling into the saddle. "Olivia, I meant what I said. You've got enemies working against you. I'd like to stop by regularly, keep an eye on things. Would that be all right with you?" Olivia hesitated. Part of her wanted to refuse, to maintain her independence. But a larger part, the part that was tired of fighting every battle alone, wanted to say yes. Wanted the reassurance of knowing someone cared whether she lived or died out here in the vast Montana wilderness. "All right," she said. "But I won't be treated like I'm helpless. I would never make that mistake." Zachary's smile was genuine, reaching his eyes. "I'll see you soon, Olivia Gardner." She watched him ride east toward Concordia, a solitary figure against the enormous sky. Something had shifted today, she realized. For the first time in 2 years, she did not feel entirely alone. The sensation was both comforting and terrifying. Over the following weeks, Zachary became a regular presence at Olivia's ranch. He would ride out after his duties in town, helping with whatever work needed doing. Sometimes it was mending fence, other times checking the cattle, once helping her repair a leak in the barn roof. He never assumed control, never dismissed her knowledge or capabilities. Instead, he worked alongside her, learning her methods, offering his own experience when relevant. They talked as they worked, sharing stories of their pasts, their hopes for the future. Olivia learned that Zachary had a dry sense of humor, that he loved the land with the same fierce passion she did, that he had come to Montana seeking not just work but a place to belong. He learned that Olivia was tougher than boot leather, but also lonely, that she read poetry by lamplight, that she loved the sound of rain on the cabin roof, and missed her father with an ache that never fully subsided. The people of Concordia began to notice Zachary's frequent visits to the Gardner ranch. Talk spread through town, as it always did in small communities where everyone knew everyone else's business. Some thought it improper for the deputy to spend so much time with an unmarried woman. Others speculated that a romance was developing. The town matrons clucked their tongues and declared that perhaps the Gardner girl would finally become respectable. Olivia heard the gossip when she came to town for supplies. She held her head high, refusing to show how the whispers stung. Let them talk. She had never lived her life according to their expectations, and she would not start now. One Saturday afternoon in late August, Olivia drove her wagon into Concordia to pick up supplies from the general store. The town was busy, ranchers coming in for the weekend, families strolling the boardwalks. She tied her team outside Henderson's general store and went inside, her list in hand. Martha Henderson was behind the counter, a plump woman in her 50s with shrewd eyes and a sharp tongue. "Afternoon, Miss Gardner. Got your order ready." "Thank you, Mrs. Henderson." Olivia examined the goods assembled on the counter. Flour, sugar, coffee, ammunition, lamp oil, and the other staples she needed to get through the next month. "Saw Deputy Lewis heading out your way again yesterday," Martha said, her tone casual but her eyes watchful. He's been spending a lot of time at your place. He's been helping with some work, Olivia said evenly. The fence needed repairs. Of course. Martha began wrapping the purchases. Though I imagine a young man doesn't ride all that way just for fence work. He's a good-looking fellow, that deputy. And you're a pretty girl when you're not dressed like a ranch hand. Folks are wondering if maybe we'll be hearing wedding bells. Olivia felt her temper flare. Mrs. Henderson, my relationship with Deputy Lewis is my own business, and I dress for the work I do, not to please the town gossips. Martha's eyebrows rose. No need to get prickly, dear. I'm just saying it would be nice to see you settled. A woman your age ought to be thinking about marriage and children, not wearing herself out trying to run a ranch alone. I'm 22 years old and perfectly capable of deciding what I ought to be doing. Olivia counted out payment for her supplies, her movements sharp with irritation. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a long drive back. She was loading the wagon when she heard a familiar voice. Need help with that? Zachary stood on the boardwalk, dressed in his usual work clothes, his badge glinting in the sunlight. Olivia felt her irritation ease slightly at the sight of him. I can manage, but thank you. He came down the steps anyway, lifting a heavy sack of flour into the wagon bed with easy strength. I was hoping I'd run into you. There's something I want to show you if you have time. What is it? A surprise. Can you spare an hour? Olivia studied him, seeing the slight smile playing at his lips, the warmth in his eyes. All right, but only an hour. I have chores waiting. Always working, Zachary said, but his tone was fond rather than critical. Come on. He led her down Main Street to the edge of town where a small white building stood. A sign above the door read Concordia School. Olivia had passed it before but never gone inside. Why are you showing me a schoolhouse? She asked. Because they need a teacher. Zachary opened the door, ushering her inside. The single room was neat and clean with rows of desks and a blackboard at the front. Sunlight streamed through the windows, illuminating dust motes dancing in the air. I'm not a teacher, Olivia said, confused. You could be. The previous teacher left to get married, moved to Helena with her husband. The school board has been looking for a replacement. I mentioned you to them. Olivia turned to stare at him. You what? Zachary, I can't be a teacher. I have a ranch to run. Hear me out. He moved to stand in front of her, his expression serious. The school term runs from October to May, 4 days a week. That would give you income through the winter months when ranch work is lighter anyway. The pay isn't much, but it would help. And Olivia, you're educated. You love to read. You'd be good at this. But the ranch will still be there, and I'll help you with the winter work, same as I've been doing. He paused, then added quietly, I know you don't want to depend on anyone, but this could give you some security. A way to keep the ranch without running yourself into the ground trying to do everything alone. Olivia walked to one of the windows, looking out at the mountains in the distance. Teaching. She had never considered it. Her father had educated her well, classical literature and mathematics and history, subjects he had loved and passed on to her. She did love learning, loved books. But accepting this position felt like admitting she could not make it on the ranch alone. What if the school board doesn't want me? She asked finally. A woman who wears trousers and runs a ranch, the respectable mothers might not approve. Then they're fools. Zachary came to stand beside her. You're the most capable person I know, Olivia. Man or woman, you work harder than anyone in this valley. You're educated and smart and you don't give up. Those are exactly the qualities children need in a teacher. You have a lot of faith in me. I do. He met her eyes. More than you have in yourself, I think. The words struck deep. Olivia realized he was right. She had spent 2 years trying to prove she could handle everything alone, but underneath the determination was a thread of doubt. a fear that maybe everyone who said she could not do this was right. "I'll think about it," she said finally. "That's all I ask." They walked back to her wagon together. The street was still busy, and Olivia was aware of people watching them, the whispers that would follow. She tried not to care, but it was exhausting, always being the subject of speculation and judgment. As if reading her thoughts, Zachary said, "They talk because you're different. You threaten their ideas about how things should be." "I don't want to threaten anyone. I just want to live my life." "I know. But sometimes just living your life is revolutionary when people expect you to live according to their rules." He helped her up onto the wagon seat. "Don't let them make you doubt yourself, Olivia. You're doing something remarkable out here." She looked down at him, this man who had appeared in her life just weeks ago and somehow become essential. "Why do you care so much? About me, about my ranch?" Zachary was quiet for a moment, his hand resting on the wagon side. "Because I see someone fighting for something real. Because I admire your courage and your stubbornness. Because—" He paused, seeming to choose his words carefully. "Because I've never met anyone like you, Olivia Gardner, and I'd like to keep knowing you if you'll let me." Olivia's heart beat faster. There was something in his voice, in the way he looked at her, that made her suddenly aware of things she had been ignoring. The warmth she felt when he was near, the way she found herself watching for his arrival, the disappointment when a day passed without seeing him. These were dangerous feelings, feelings that could complicate everything. "I should go," she said, gathering the reins. "Thank you for telling me about the teaching position. Olivia." He stopped her with a hand on her arm, gentle but firm. "I know you're afraid of being hurt, of losing your independence. But not everyone is trying to control you or take what's yours. Some people just want to be near you because of who you are." She met his eyes, seeing the sincerity there, and felt something in her chest crack open. "I don't know how to do this," she admitted quietly. "How to let someone in. I've been alone so long. You don't have to figure it all out today." His thumb brushed her wrist, a brief touch that sent warmth through her. "Just know that I'm here, for as long as you want me to be." Olivia drove back to the ranch with her mind spinning. She had built her life around self-reliance, around needing no one. But Zachary was making her question whether that was strength or simply fear disguised as independence. Could she let herself care for someone without losing the parts of herself she had fought so hard to protect? That evening, as she sat on her cabin porch watching the stars emerge, Olivia thought about her father. What would he say if he could see her now? She thought he would like Zachary, would appreciate his steady competence and the way he treated Olivia as an equal. Her father had wanted her to be strong, but he had never meant for her to be alone. 2 days later, a rider came from town with a message. The school board wanted to meet with her about the teaching position. Olivia read the brief note 3 times, her emotions a tangle of anxiety and hope. This could change everything, give her the financial stability to truly secure her ranch. But it also meant engaging more with the town, with the society that had largely rejected her. She dressed carefully for the meeting, wearing one of the few dresses she owned, a simple blue cotton that her father had bought her years ago. She braided her hair and pinned it up properly, trying to look respectable. When she examined herself in the small mirror, she barely recognized the woman staring back. She looked conventional, acceptable, nothing like the woman who worked cattle in trousers and lived alone on the range. The school board consisted of 5 men: the mayor, the banker, the doctor, the minister, and the owner of the largest ranch in the valley, a man named Howard Preston who had tried multiple times to buy Olivia's land. She knew immediately that Preston would oppose her appointment. They met in the town hall, sitting behind a long table while Olivia stood before them. The mayor, A gray-haired man named Thomas Wright led the discussion. "Miss Gardner, thank you for coming. Deputy Lewis suggested you might be interested in the teaching position." "I am," Olivia said, keeping her voice steady. "I know I'm not a traditional candidate, but I'm well educated and I work hard. I believe I could serve your community well." "Your education is not in question," the minister said. He was young, earnest-looking. "Your father was known to be a learned man, and we understand he educated you thoroughly." "However," Howard Preston interrupted, his voice cold, "there are concerns about your lifestyle. You live alone, unchaperoned. You dress inappropriately. You engage in work unsuitable for a woman. These are not the qualities we want modeled for our children." Olivia felt anger flash through her but kept her expression neutral. "Mr. Preston, I live the life I must to survive. I dress practically for ranch work. As for being unchaperoned, I'm a property owner and a taxpayer in this county. I believe that earns me the right to live as I see fit." "It's unseemly," Preston insisted. "What kind of influence would you have on impressionable young minds?" "The influence of someone who works hard, who doesn't give up when things are difficult, who believes in education and self-improvement." Olivia met his eyes steadily. "Are those not values you want your children to learn?" The banker, a thin man named Carson, spoke up. "Miss Gardner raises a fair point. We need a teacher, and qualified candidates are hard to find this far from the big cities. I say we give her a trial period. 1 term. If she does well, we can discuss a longer contract." "I agree," the doctor said. Several others nodded. Preston's face darkened. "You're making a mistake. This woman is an embarrassment to our town." "That's enough, Howard," Mayor Wright said firmly. "Miss Gardner, the position is yours if you want it. As Mr. Carson suggested, we'll start with 1 term. Classes begin the first Monday in October. The pay is $40 a month. $40 a month. Through the winter, that would be a fortune to Olivia, enough to make necessary improvements to her ranch, to build up reserves for emergencies. She thought of her father, of his belief in her. She thought of Zachary's faith in her abilities. "I accept," she said. "Thank you for the opportunity." As she left the town hall, Preston caught up with her on the boardwalk. "You think you're so smart," he said, his voice low and ugly. "Playing at being a rancher, now playing at being a teacher. You don't belong here, Gardner. Women like you never last. Eventually, you'll fail, and when you do, I'll be there to buy your land for a fraction of what it's worth." Olivia turned to face him fully. "Mr. Preston, I've been hearing predictions of my failure since the day my father died. I'm still here. My ranch is thriving. And now I'll be teaching your neighbor's children. You can wish for my downfall all you want, but I don't plan to give you the satisfaction." She walked away, her head high, leaving Preston fuming behind her, but his words had rattled her more than she wanted to admit. She knew she had powerful enemies, men who wanted her gone. And she knew that no matter how hard she worked, how much she proved herself, some people would never accept her. Zachary found her sitting on a bench outside the general store, staring at nothing. He sat beside her without speaking, waiting for her to acknowledge his presence. "I got the teaching position," Olivia said finally. 1 term as a trial. That's wonderful." She heard genuine pleasure in his voice. "You'll be great at it." "Howard Preston thinks I'm going to corrupt the children." She looked at him, managing a weak smile. "He told me I don't belong here, that I'll fail eventually. Preston's a bitter man who can't stand seeing someone succeed outside his control." Zachary's voice was hard. "He's been running this valley like his personal kingdom for years. You threaten that, so he lashes out. Don't let him get in your head. He's not wrong that I'm different, that I don't fit the mold of what a woman here is supposed to be. Good." Zachary shifted to face her. "Olivia, the mold is broken. It's small and limiting, and it crushes people into shapes they were never meant to be. You're showing everyone that there's another way, that a woman can own property, work her own land, teach children, live independently. That scares people like Preston because it means the world is changing. I don't want to be a symbol or a crusader. I just want to live my life. I know, but sometimes just living your life makes you both of those things. He was quiet for a moment, then asked, "Do you regret it?" "Staying here, fighting to keep your ranch." Olivia considered the question seriously. Did she regret the loneliness, the constant struggle, the judgment and hostility? The answer surprised her. "No," she said softly. "No, I don't regret it. This land is mine. I've earned it with blood and sweat and tears. And when I stand on my porch and watch the sun rise over the mountains, when I see my cattle grazing on good grass, when I close the account books and see that I've made it through another season, I feel proud. Genuinely proud of what I've built. I never had that before coming here, so no, I don't regret it." "Then don't let Preston or anyone else make you doubt that." Zachary reached over and took her hand, a bold gesture that made her breath catch. "You're extraordinary, Olivia Gardner. And if the people in this town can't see that, that's their failure, not yours." She looked at their joined hands, his larger and darker from sun, hers calloused from work. It felt right, natural, two pieces fitting together. When had this happened? When had Zachary Lewis gone from stranger to friend to something more? "I'm not very good at this," she said, not pulling away. "At letting people close. I've noticed." His smile was gentle. "But I'm patient. I can wait." "For what?" "For you to realize that you can be strong and independent and still let someone care about you. That those things aren't mutually exclusive." His thumb traced circles on her palm. "I care about you, Olivia. More than I probably should, given we've only known each other a few weeks. But I do." Olivia's heart hammered in her chest. "I care about you too," she admitted, the words feeling momentous. "But I'm afraid. Of losing myself, of becoming dependent, of being hurt," Zachary finished. "I know, I'm afraid too. My parents died and left me alone. My brother chose the ranch over our relationship. I've learned that caring about people means risking loss. But I've also learned that being alone isn't the same as being safe. It's just another kind of pain." They sat in silence, hands clasped, the bustle of the town flowing around them. Olivia knew people were watching, gossiping, making assumptions. For once, she did not care. Let them talk. This moment was hers, and she would not give it up to satisfy their expectations. "I need time," she said finally, "to get used to this. To figure out how to be with someone without losing the parts of me I fought to keep. Take all the time you need." Zachary squeezed her hand gently. "I'm not going anywhere." That night, lying in her narrow bed, Olivia thought about what it meant to let someone in. She had built her life around autonomy, proving she needed no one. But Zachary was showing her that independence did not mean isolation. That strength came in many forms, including the courage to be vulnerable. September passed in a blur of activity. Olivia divided her time between ranch work and preparing for her teaching duties. She rode into town several times to review the curriculum, to organize the schoolroom, to meet with parents who wanted to discuss their children's education. Most were cordial if not warm, clearly willing to give her a chance even if they thought her unconventional. Zachary helped her move her cattle to winter pasture, worked alongside her harvesting the hay she had grown, repaired the barn door that had been sticking. He was always there, steady and reliable, never pushing for more than she was ready to give but making his feelings clear through his actions. They talked constantly, sharing dreams and fears and stories. Olivia learned that Zachary wanted to own his own ranch someday, a place where he could build something lasting. He learned that Olivia wrote poetry in a journal she kept hidden, that she had nightmares about losing the ranch, that she was terrified of ending up like her mother, who had loved her father so completely that his emotional withdrawal after her death had been a kind of dying for her. "Love doesn't have to destroy you," Zachary said one evening as they sat on Olivia's porch watching the stars. "Your mother's situation was tragic, but it doesn't mean loving someone is dangerous, doesn't it?" Olivia drew her knees up, wrapping her arms around them. "She gave everything to my father. Her whole identity was wrapped up in being his wife. When she died, I think part of her was almost relieved to escape the intensity of her feelings. And my father, he loved her so much that losing her broke something in him. That kind of love seems like madness to me." "That's one kind of love," Zachary acknowledged. "The all-consuming kind that leaves no room for anything else. But there's another kind. The kind where two people remain themselves but choose to walk side by side. Where they support each other without losing their own identities. That's the kind I believe in." "Is that what you want?" Olivia asked, looking at him in the darkness. "With me?" "Yes. No hesitation, no uncertainty. If you'll have it, I love who you are, Olivia. The rancher, the teacher, the woman who refuses to be anything but herself. I don't want to change you or control you or make you into something you're not. I just want to be part of your life." Olivia felt tears prick her eyes. "I cannot change who I am," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "I've tried to be what people expect, to fit into their boxes, and I can't. This is who I am. Independent and stubborn and more comfortable with cattle than with people. If we do this, if we try to build something together, you need to know that I'll never be a conventional wife. I'll never be content to stay home and keep house while you do all the work. I need to be active, to contribute, to feel like I'm building something." Zachary smiled, a slow, warm smile that made her heart flip. "I don't want you any different," he said. "Do you understand that? I love you exactly as you are. The independence, the stubbornness, all of it. I don't want to change you. I want to know you, to stand beside you, to be your partner in whatever you're building." The words hung in the air between them, momentous and terrifying and wonderful. Olivia felt something shift inside her, walls crumbling, defenses falling away. She had been so afraid of this, of opening herself to someone, but suddenly the fear seemed less important than the possibility of what they could have together. "I love you too," she whispered. "I think I have for weeks, but I was too scared to admit it." Zachary reached out, cupping her face gently. "Can I kiss you?" Olivia nodded, unable to speak. He leaned in slowly, giving her time to pull away if she wanted, but she did not want to. She wanted this, wanted him, wanted to feel something besides loneliness and struggle. His lips were warm and soft against hers, the kiss gentle and questioning. Olivia responded tentatively at first, then with more confidence as sensation washed through her. She had been kissed before, clumsy attempts by boys back in Ohio, but nothing like this. This was a claiming and a surrender all at once, a promise of things to come. When they finally pulled apart, both breathing hard, Zachary rested his forehead against hers. "I've wanted to do that for so long." "Why didn't you?" "Because I was waiting for you to be ready, for you to trust me enough to let me close." He pulled back slightly, searching her face. "Are you ready, Olivia? Because if we do this, I'm all in. I want a future with you. Marriage, building a life together, all of it." "I know that's fast, but I also know what I feel. I'm not interested in anything casual or temporary." The word marriage sent a spike of panic through Olivia. Marriage meant giving up control, becoming someone's property under the law. Montana territory had some protections for married women's property, but tradition often overruled legal rights. If she married Zachary, would he expect her to give up the ranch to become a traditional wife? "I can see you panicking," Zachary said softly. Talk to me. What are you thinking? Marriage terrifies me, Olivia admitted. Women lose everything when they marry. Their property, their rights, their identity. I've worked too hard to build this ranch to risk losing it. Then we'll make sure that doesn't happen. Zachary took both her hands. Olivia, I don't want your ranch. I want you. We can have a lawyer draw up papers protecting your ownership. We can build my house on the adjoining property if that would make you feel more secure. We can structure our marriage however we need to so you never feel trapped or controlled. I'm not interested in owning you. I just want to be with you. You do that. Let me keep the ranch in my name. Let me continue running it, of course. Why would I want to take away the thing that makes you happy? He looked genuinely puzzled by the question. Olivia, I'm offering partnership, not ownership. Two people building something together, both contributing, both having a say. That's what I want our marriage to be. Tears spilled down Olivia's cheeks. She had not realized how much she needed to hear those words, how afraid she had been that loving someone meant losing herself. I want that too, she said. So much, but I need time. To get used to the idea, to figure out how it would work practically. Can you be patient with me, as patient as you need me to be? Zachary wiped her tears away with his thumbs. I'm not going anywhere, remember. We'll figure this out together, at whatever pace feels right. They sat on the porch until late, talking through the practicalities and possibilities. Zachary shared his vision of buying the property adjacent to Olivia's ranch, land that had recently come up for sale. Combined, their holdings would create one of the largest ranches in the valley. Olivia found herself excited by the idea, imagining what they could build together. We'd be equals, she asked. True partners? Absolutely. Your ranch stays yours, my land stays mine until we decide otherwise. We make decisions together. We work together. We build something neither of us could build alone. He paused. Though I should warn you, I'm told I can be stubborn. Olivia laughed, the sound surprising her. When had she last laughed with real joy? I think I can handle stubborn. I was hoping you'd say that. October arrived, bringing cooler weather and the start of the school term. Olivia threw herself into teaching with the same intensity she brought to ranching. She had 18 students ranging from 6 to 14 years old, children of ranchers and merchants and laborers. They were initially skeptical of their unconventional teacher, but Olivia won them over with her energy and genuine love of learning. She taught them reading and arithmetic, history and geography, but also practical skills. She believed education should prepare children for real life, so she incorporated lessons about land management and basic accounting, about civic duty and critical thinking. The children responded enthusiastically, and their parents began to notice improvements. Word spread that Miss Gardner was an excellent teacher. Parents who had been doubtful started praising her methods. Even some of the town women who had gossiped about her began to soften, seeing her dedication to the children. Olivia found herself slowly becoming part of the community in a way she never had before, but not everyone was pleased. Howard Preston grew more hostile as Olivia's reputation improved. He complained to the school board that she was teaching inappropriate subjects, that a woman rancher had no business influencing children. The board dismissed his complaints, satisfied with Olivia's performance, which only made Preston angrier. One cold November evening, Olivia returned to her ranch after a day of teaching to find her barn on fire. She rode in hard, her heart hammering with terror. The flames lit up the night sky, and she could hear her horses screaming inside. Without thinking, she ran toward the barn. The heat was intense, smoke choking, but she had to save her animals. She managed to free 2 horses, driving them out into the yard when strong arms grabbed her from behind. No, Zachary's voice in her ear, firm and commanding. The roof's going to collapse. You can't go back in. My horses. Olivia struggled against him, desperate. I have to. You'll die if you go back in there. He held her tight, dragging her away from the inferno. Olivia, stop, please. She watched helplessly as her barn burned, the flames consuming everything. The structure that her father had built, that sheltered her livestock and stored her hay, reduced to ash. When the roof collapsed with a thunderous crash, sending sparks spiraling into the night sky, Olivia felt something break inside her. Zachary held her as she wept, his arms strong around her. Other neighbors arrived, drawn by the fire's glow, but there was nothing anyone could do except watch it burn and make sure the flames did not spread to the house or other buildings. When the fire finally burned itself out, leaving only smoking ruins, Sheriff Morgan examined the scene. He returned to where Olivia sat wrapped in a blanket, her face streaked with soot and tears. This was arson, he said grimly. Someone poured accelerant around the base of the barn and lit it. This was deliberate, Miss Gardner. Someone's trying to hurt you. Olivia was not surprised. She had known she had enemies, but knowing and experiencing their malice were different things. Howard Preston, she said flatly. He wants my land. He's been trying to drive me out since my father died. Do you have proof? The sheriff asked. No, but who else would do this? I'll investigate, but without evidence I can't arrest anyone on suspicion alone. The sheriff looked troubled. In the meantime, you need to be careful. Whoever did this is escalating. They're willing to risk your life to achieve their goals. After everyone left, Zachary stayed. He helped Olivia check her remaining animals, count her losses, assess the damage. She had lost 3 horses in the fire, along with all her winter hay and most of her equipment. The financial blow was devastating, but worse was the psychological impact. She no longer felt safe on her own land. Stay with me tonight, Zachary said as dawn broke over the mountains. You shouldn't be alone after this. Olivia wanted to refuse to assert her independence, but she was too exhausted and too shaken to argue. All right. They rode together to his small house on the edge of Concordia. It was neat and spare, a bachelor's dwelling but clean and comfortable. Zachary settled Olivia in his bed over her protests that she could sleep in a chair, then made coffee and a simple breakfast. What am I going to do? Olivia asked, staring at the mug in her hands. I can't rebuild without money, and I've put everything into the ranch. I have no reserves for something like this. We'll figure it out, Zachary said firmly. You have your teaching income now, that's something. And I have savings from my years working. Between us, we can rebuild. I can't take your money. Why not? We're partners, aren't we? Or are you having second thoughts about that? Olivia looked up at him, seeing the concern and love in his eyes. He was offering her everything he had, no conditions, no demands. How had she gotten so lucky to find this man? No second thoughts, she said softly, but I don't want to be a burden. You're not a burden. You're the woman I love and you're in trouble. Let me help. He crouched beside her chair, taking her hands. Olivia, I know accepting help is hard for you, but this is what partnership means. When one of us falls, the other helps them up. Today it's me helping you. Tomorrow it might be you helping me. That's how this works. She nodded, tears streaming down her face again. She was so tired of crying, of feeling weak and vulnerable, but maybe vulnerability was not weakness. Maybe it was simply being human. Over the following weeks, a strange thing happened. The community rallied around Olivia. Ranchers she barely knew showed up with wagons full of hay, donating from their own stores so her remaining cattle would not starve. The carpenter offered to rebuild her barn at cost, accepting payment in installments. Women from town brought food and supplies, practical offerings that kept her going through the crisis. Even some of Preston's allies distanced themselves from him, making it clear that burning someone's property was beyond the pale, no matter how much they might disagree with Olivia's choices. Preston himself grew isolated, his influence waning as the community chose Olivia's side. Zachary was a constant presence, working alongside Olivia to repair and rebuild. Together they drew up plans for a new barn, larger and more efficient than the old one. He secured the loan to purchase the adjoining property, legally protecting Olivia's ownership of her own land while creating space for their future shared operations. One evening in early December, as they worked late sketching barn plans by lamplight, Zachary said, "Marry me." Olivia looked up from the paper, startled. "What, marry me?" He set down his pencil, meeting her eyes. "I know we talked about waiting, taking it slow, but life's too short and too uncertain. We love each other. We work well together. We want the same things. Why wait?" "Because it's only been 4 months since we met," Olivia said, even as her heart raced with possibility. "Because marriage is a huge step. Because you're afraid," Zachary finished. "I understand that. But Olivia, fear is a terrible reason not to do something. I love you. I want to build a life with you. I want to wake up beside you every morning and know that we're facing whatever comes together. Say yes." Olivia looked at this man who had changed her life so completely. He had never tried to control her or diminish her. He had stood beside her through crisis, believed in her when she doubted herself, loved her without conditions or expectations. He saw who she truly was and wanted her exactly as she was. "I cannot change who I am," she said, needing him to understand completely. "I'm never going to be a conventional wife. I need my independence, my work, my ranch. I need to feel like I'm contributing equally to our partnership. If you're expecting me to transform into some kind of domestic angel," Zachary smiled, that warm, genuine smile that made her feel seen. "I don't want you any different," he said. "How many times do I have to tell you that? I love the rancher, the teacher, the woman who shoots rustlers and mends fence and refuses to quit. I love your independence and your strength. I don't want to change any of it. I just want to be part of it." "Then yes," Olivia said, the word coming out half laugh, half sob. "Yes, I'll marry you." He pulled her into his arms, kissing her deeply, and Olivia let herself fall into the moment without fear or reservation. This was right. They were right. Together, they could build something neither could achieve alone. They were married 2 weeks later in a simple ceremony at the Concordia Church. Olivia wore a blue dress that matched her eyes, and Zachary wore his best suit. Sheriff Morgan stood as witness, along with Martha Henderson, who cried genuine tears of joy. The minister who had supported Olivia's teaching appointment performed the ceremony, speaking about partnership and mutual respect in ways that made Olivia feel truly seen. When Zachary slipped a simple gold band onto her finger, Olivia felt a profound sense of rightness. This was not surrender or loss of self. This was choosing to share her life with someone who valued her as an equal. This was the beginning of something new and precious. The town held a celebration at the community hall, and Olivia was surprised by how many people came, how warmly they congratulated her. She was becoming part of this community, no longer the outsider fighting alone. She had earned her place through perseverance and hard work, and now these people were welcoming her as one of their own. Howard Preston did not attend, which was no surprise. But Olivia noticed several of his former allies there, men who seemed genuinely pleased for her. Preston's influence continued to wane as evidence of his involvement in the barn burning, while not conclusive enough for prosecution, became generally known and condemned. That night, in Zachary's house, which was now their home until they built something larger, Olivia lay in her husband's arms and felt peace for the first time in years. She was still herself, still independent and strong, but she was no longer alone. She had a partner, someone to share burdens and joys, someone who loved her without trying to change her. "What are you thinking?" Zachary asked, his fingers tracing patterns on her shoulder. "That I'm happy," Olivia said, surprised by the simplicity of it. "Genuinely, deeply happy. I didn't think I could be any more. I had convinced myself that happiness meant solitude, that needing anyone was weakness. But this feels right. We feel right." "We do," Zachary agreed. He kissed her forehead. "Tomorrow we start building our life together. The barn, the combined ranch, everything we've planned. It's going to be hard work. I'm good at hard work." Olivia smiled against his chest. "And now I don't have to do it alone." The winter passed in productive labor. The new barn rose, larger and sturdier than the one that had burned. Olivia continued teaching, finding she loved the work more than she had expected. The children responded to her passionate instruction, and she took pride in seeing them grow and learn. The income allowed her and Zachary to purchase better breeding stock, to make improvements to both properties, to slowly build something substantial. They worked side by side every day, falling into rhythms of cooperation that felt natural and right. Olivia discovered that sharing the workload meant accomplishing more, not less. With Zachary handling some of the tasks she had struggled to manage alone, she could focus on what she did best. Together they were formidable. In the spring, they broke ground on a larger house built halfway between their original properties, a symbolic midpoint that represented their equal partnership. It would have 4 bedrooms, Zachary insisted, for the children they both wanted. Olivia felt a flutter of nervousness at the thought, but also excitement. She had never imagined herself as a mother, but with Zachary, parenthood seemed like another adventure they could tackle together. The house went up through the summer, and they moved in during September, just as Olivia began her second term of teaching. It was a beautiful structure with large windows that let in light and offered views of the mountains. Olivia had her own study for lesson planning, and the writing she was beginning to pursue more seriously. Zachary had his office for managing their combined ranch operations. They had their shared bedroom, a large kitchen where they cooked together, a living space that felt like home. That winter, Olivia discovered she was pregnant. The news filled her with a complex mix of emotions, joy and fear tangled together. She worried about how pregnancy and motherhood would affect her work, whether she could maintain her identity while becoming a parent. "You'll be an amazing mother," Zachary assured her when she voiced her concerns. "Just like you're an amazing teacher and rancher and wife. You don't have to choose between different parts of yourself, Olivia. You can be all of it." "But how? I've seen what happens to women when they have children. They disappear into motherhood, losing everything else they were. That won't happen to you. We won't let it." Zachary took her hands. "We'll hire help when you need it. Your mother can watch the baby while you teach if you want to continue, or you can take a term off if you prefer. We'll figure it out together, whatever works for our family. But you don't have to sacrifice your dreams or your independence to be a mother." His unwavering support steadied her. They would figure it out, just as they had figured out everything else. Olivia taught through the winter, her pregnancy showing but not yet hindering her work. She was honest with her students about the changes coming, using her own experience to teach them about biology and family and the realities of life. The school board approved, impressed by her practical approach to education. Their son was born in May of 1880, a healthy baby with his father's gray eyes and his mother's dark hair. They named him Thomas, after Olivia's father, and welcomed him into a home full of love and possibility. Olivia was amazed by the fierce protective love she felt for this tiny person, a love that somehow made her stronger rather than diminishing her. She took the summer off from teaching, bonding with Thomas and helping with the ranch work when her body had recovered. True to his word, Zachary shared the childcare equally, strapping Thomas in a sling and wearing him while he worked when Olivia needed rest. They hired a young woman from town to help with household tasks, freeing Olivia to focus on the things she loved most. When fall came, Olivia returned to teaching 3 days a week, bringing Thomas with her. The schoolhouse became livelier with a baby present, and the children enjoyed taking turns helping care for him during breaks. It was unconventional, but Olivia had never cared much for convention. This arrangement worked for her family, and that was all that mattered. Their ranch prospered. By 1882, they had one of the most successful operations in the valley, known for quality cattle and innovative practices. Olivia's reputation as both a rancher and teacher continued to grow. She had proven that a woman could succeed in traditionally male spheres, could balance multiple roles, could be both strong and nurturing, independent and partnered. Howard Preston's fortunes declined inversely to theirs. His ranch struggled, plagued by poor management and his inability to adapt to changing markets. Eventually, he was forced to sell out to a buyer from back east, leaving Montana in disgrace. Olivia felt no particular triumph in his downfall, only relief that she no longer had to watch her back constantly. They had 2 more children, a daughter named Clara born in 1882 and another son, James, in 1885. Their house filled with noise and life and love. Olivia continued teaching until 1886, when the school board promoted her to head teacher with responsibility for training others. She reduced her classroom time, but remained deeply involved in education, shaping policy and curriculum for the growing school system. Zachary was elected sheriff in 1884, taking over when his mentor retired. He was known as fair but tough, someone who enforced the law impartially and protected all the citizens of the county, not just the powerful. He and Olivia were seen as a team, partners in every sense, and their marriage became something of a model for other couples who wanted equality in their relationships. On their 10th anniversary in December of 1889, Olivia and Zachary sat on their porch watching their children play in the snow. Thomas was 9, Clara 7, James 4. The ranch stretched out around them, prosperous and thriving, a testament to years of hard work and cooperation. "You ever regret it?" Zachary asked, his arm around Olivia's shoulders. "Marrying me, giving up some of your independence?" Olivia leaned into him, considering the question seriously. "I didn't give up my independence," she said finally. "I chose to share my life with someone who respects it. That's different. And no, I don't regret a single moment. You've given me more than I ever imagined possible. A true partnership, a family, a life full of meaning and love. How could I regret that?" I ask, "because I know how hard you fought to be your own person. I never want you to feel like you lost that." "I haven't lost anything." Olivia turned to face him fully. "I've gained everything. You showed me that I could be strong and independent and still have someone to lean on. That loving you didn't mean losing myself. I'm still the woman I was, Zachary. I'm just happier now." He kissed her softly. "I love you, Olivia Lewis, more with each passing year. I love you too." She settled back against him, watching their children. "Thank you for seeing me, for accepting who I am without trying to change me." "Always," he said. "I wouldn't want you any different." The years continued to pass, bringing both challenges and triumphs. The harsh winter of 1890 tested every rancher in Montana. But Olivia and Zachary's careful planning and diverse income streams saw them through when others failed. They expanded their holdings, purchasing property from struggling neighbors at fair prices, building their ranch into a major enterprise. Their children grew into capable, confident young people. Thomas showed an aptitude for ranching and business, learning every aspect of the operation from his parents. Clara inherited her mother's love of learning and teaching, expressing interest in attending college back east. James was still young but showed signs of his father's steady temperament and sense of justice. Olivia wrote a book about her experiences, published in 1893. A Woman's Life in the West was part memoir, part practical guide, documenting her journey from uncertain rancher to successful businesswoman and educator. It became popular among women seeking unconventional lives, offering both inspiration and practical advice. Olivia received letters from across the country, women thanking her for showing them another way to live. The book's success led to speaking engagements, and Olivia traveled throughout Montana and neighboring territories, talking about women's capabilities, education, and the importance of partnership in marriage. Zachary encouraged these trips, managing the ranch and children while she was gone, never showing resentment about her success or time away. In 1896, when Olivia was 40, Montana achieved statehood. She was asked to speak at the celebration in the new capital, Helena. Standing before a crowd of thousands, she reflected on her journey, on the wild territory that had become her home and helped shape her into who she was. 20 years ago, I was a frightened young woman trying to hold onto a ranch. Everyone said I would lose, she told the crowd. I was alone, uncertain, convinced that needing anyone meant weakness. But this land taught me something vital. It taught me that true strength isn't about doing everything alone. It's about knowing your own worth, standing firm in who you are, and having the courage to let others stand with you. She looked out at the audience, spotting Zachary and their children in the front row. I found a partner who saw me as an equal, who loved me without trying to change me. Together we built something neither of us could have built alone. That's what Montana represents to me. A place where hard work and determination matter more than tradition or limitation. A place where people can become who they're meant to be. The crowd erupted in applause, and Olivia felt a profound sense of gratitude. She had come to Montana running from grief, seeking only to honor her father's dream. But she had found so much more. She had found herself, her purpose, her place in the world, and she had found love that expanded her life rather than constraining it. That night back in their hotel room, Zachary held her close. That was a beautiful speech. I meant every word. Olivia traced his jaw with her finger, still marveling at how much she loved this man even after 17 years together. You changed my life, Zachary Lewis. You showed me I could be both strong and vulnerable, independent and connected. You gave me everything I was afraid to want. You did the same for me, he said. Before you, I was drifting, never quite belonging anywhere. You gave me purpose, family, home. You challenged me to be better, to truly see people as equals regardless of gender or background. I'm a better man because of you. They held each other as the city celebrated outside their window, two people who had found in each other exactly what they needed. Neither was perfect, and their marriage had weathered difficulties over the years, disagreements and struggles that required compromise and communication. But they had never wavered in their fundamental commitment to each other and to the principles that guided their partnership. Time moved forward, as it always does. Thomas took over more of the ranch operations, proving himself a capable manager. At 21, he married a young woman from Concordia, a schoolteacher who reminded Olivia of herself. Clara went to college in Massachusetts, the first woman in their family to pursue higher education, returning with a degree and plans to start a school for girls in Montana. James followed his father into law enforcement, becoming a deputy and eventually sheriff himself. He shared Zachary's commitment to justice and fairness, applying the law equally regardless of someone's wealth or influence. Olivia and Zachary became grandparents, their house filling once more with children's laughter. Olivia continued her advocacy work, serving on the school board, writing articles about education and women's rights, speaking whenever she was asked. Zachary remained sheriff until he was 55, then retired to focus on the ranch and family. They aged together, their bodies showing the wear of years of hard work but their spirits remaining strong. On their 30th anniversary in 1899, their children threw them a celebration at the ranch. Nearly 200 people came, friends and neighbors and former students, all gathering to honor a couple who had become legendary in the community. 30 years, Olivia said in her toast, her hand clasped in Zachary's. 30 years of partnership, of love, of building something beautiful together. People told me I couldn't be both independent and married, that I had to choose between having a life of my own and having a life with someone. But Zachary showed me that was a false choice. With the right partner, you can be fully yourself and fully committed to each other. She looked at him, seeing the man who had appeared in her life when she needed him most, who had believed in her when she barely believed in herself. I love you more today than I did 30 years ago, if that's possible. You've been my partner, my friend, my greatest supporter. You've never tried to diminish me or make me less than I am. Instead, you've helped me become more. I cannot change who I am, she said, her voice carrying to everyone present. That scared me for so long. I thought it meant I'd always be alone, that no one could love the woman I actually was. But you. She turned to Zachary, tears in her eyes. He smiled, that warm, accepting smile that still made her heart flutter. I don't want you any different, he said, finishing the thought that had become their private mantra over the years. Not then, not now, not ever. You're perfect exactly as you are, Olivia, you always have been. The celebration continued late into the night. 3 generations of family and countless friends, sharing food and stories and laughter. Olivia looked around at everything they had built, the life they had created through love and hard work and unwavering commitment to each other's happiness and growth. This was success, she thought. Not wealth or acclaim, though they had achieved both. But this gathering of people who loved them, this legacy of family and community, this proof that 2 people could build something lasting when they truly valued and respected each other. The new century arrived, bringing changes both welcome and challenging. Automobiles appeared on Montana roads. Electricity came to Concordia. The world accelerated in ways both exciting and unsettling. But through it all, Olivia and Zachary remained constants, their partnership a model of what marriage could be when 2 people truly saw each other as equals. Olivia published 2 more books, one about education reform and another collection of her speeches and essays. She became known as an advocate for women's suffrage, traveling to meetings and rallies, using her platform to push for equal voting rights. When Montana women gained the right to vote in 1914, she was invited to cast one of the first ballots, a moment of profound significance. Zachary supported her activism enthusiastically, accompanying her to events when he could, defending her work when critics claimed she was overstepping women's proper sphere. He had spent 35 years proving through actions that he believed in equality, that his marriage was a true partnership, and he would not stop now. They grew old together, their hair turning gray and then white, their bodies slowing but their minds remaining sharp. They still worked the ranch alongside their children and grandchildren, still contributed to their community, still loved each other with the depth that came from decades of shared life. On a spring morning in 1921, Olivia woke in their bed, sunlight streaming through the windows of the house they had built 40 years earlier. Zachary lay beside her, his breathing deep and even. She studied his face, mapping the lines and weathering of 70 years of life, and felt such overwhelming love and gratitude that tears came to her eyes. He opened his eyes, catching her watching him. "Good morning, beautiful. Good morning yourself." She touched his face gently. "What would you like to do today?" "The same thing I want to do every day. Spend it with you." They rose and dressed, moving with the careful deliberation of age but still capable and active. They had coffee on the porch, watching the sun rise over mountains that never lost their majesty. Their eldest grandson, Thomas's son, came by to discuss ranch business, asking their advice with genuine respect for their decades of experience. Later, Clara visited with her own children, 3 girls who were attending the school she had founded. They gathered around Olivia, asking her to tell stories of the old days when Montana was still a territory and life was harder but somehow simpler. "Was it really true that people didn't think women should own property?" one of the girls asked. "It was," Olivia confirmed. "I had to fight for every acre of this ranch. People thought I would fail because I was a woman. But you didn't fail." "No, I didn't." Olivia smiled at her great-granddaughter. "I worked hard, I stayed true to myself, and I found a partner who believed in me. That made all the difference." The girl looked at Zachary, who sat nearby watching the conversation with amusement. "Grandpa Zachary, did you really help Grandma Olivia when everyone else said she would fail?" "I did," Zachary confirmed. "Your grandmother is the strongest person I've ever known." It was an honor to stand beside her. "But weren't you worried she wasn't proper?" the girl asked, clearly remembering other stories they had told. "That she wore trousers and ran a ranch," Zachary laughed. "I loved her exactly because she was different, because she refused to fit into anyone's narrow expectations. She was magnificent, and she still is." Olivia met his eyes across the porch, and the look they shared contained 42 years of love, partnership, and unwavering mutual support. They had built something extraordinary together, not because either of them was perfect, but because they had chosen each other completely, accepting flaws and strengths equally. As the sun set that evening, painting the Montana sky in shades of orange and pink, Olivia and Zachary sat together in the wooden swing he had built years ago. Their children and grandchildren had departed, leaving them in peaceful solitude. "You have any regrets?" Olivia asked, a question they returned to periodically over the decades. "Not a single one," Zachary said firmly. "Every choice I made that led me to you was the right choice. Every year we've shared has been a gift. I do it all exactly the same way. Even the hard parts, the struggles. Especially the hard parts, they made us who we are." He pulled her closer. "You know what I'm most proud of? Not the ranch or the money or any of it. I'm proud that we built a partnership based on genuine equality and respect, that we raised children who believe in those values, that we showed people a different way to be married, to be together. That's a legacy worth leaving." Olivia rested her head on his shoulder, feeling utterly content. "I love you, Zachary Lewis. You were the best decision I ever made." "I love you too, Olivia. Always have, always will." They sat together as darkness fell. Two people who had lived a remarkable life by refusing to accept the limitations others tried to impose. They had built something beautiful and lasting, not by changing themselves to fit society's expectations, but by finding someone who loved them exactly as they were. The years continued, bringing both joys and sorrows as all lives contain. They lost friends to age and illness, watched the world change in ways both wonderful and troubling. But through everything, they had each other, their partnership enduring through all challenges. Zachary passed away peacefully in 1925 at the age of 74, surrounded by his family. Olivia held his hand as he slipped away, whispering her love and gratitude for their life together. His death was devastating, the loss of her partner of 46 years leaving a hole nothing could fill. But she did not regret loving him, did not wish she had protected her heart better. Their love had been worth every moment, including the pain of loss. She lived 7 more years, remaining active and engaged until the end. She saw her grandchildren grown and established, met several great-grandchildren, watched the ranch continue to prosper under family management. She finished one final book, a memoir of her marriage, detailing the principles and practices that had made their partnership so successful. On the last page, she wrote, "Love does not require us to diminish ourselves or become what others expect. True love sees us fully, accepts us completely, and celebrates who we actually are. I spent my youth afraid that I would have to choose between being myself and being loved. Zachary Lewis showed me that was a false choice. He loved me not despite my strength and independence, but because of those qualities. He wanted a partner, not a possession. And together, we built a life richer than anything I imagined possible." To anyone reading this who fears they are too much or not enough, who worries that their true self is unlovable, I say this: wait for someone who doesn't want you any different. Wait for someone who sees you completely and chooses you anyway. That person exists, and that love is worth waiting for. Olivia died in her sleep in 1932 at the age of 74, passing peacefully in the house she and Zachary had built. She was buried beside him in the Concordia Cemetery, their graves marked with a simple stone that read, "Olivia Gardner Lewis and Zachary Lewis. Partners in life, love, and all things. They showed us a better way." Their legacy lived on through their children, grandchildren, and the countless people they had influenced over the decades. The ranch remained in the family, managed by Thomas's descendants, who honored the principles of hard work and innovation their grandparents had established. Clara's school continued to educate girls, teaching them they could be anything they chose. James's children and grandchildren served in law enforcement, carrying on traditions of justice and fairness. The books Olivia wrote remained in print, inspiring new generations of women to claim their own power and seek partnerships based on equality. Her story became part of Montana history, taught in schools, referenced in discussions of women's rights and Western settlement. She became a symbol of what was possible when someone refused to accept limitations, when they stayed true to themselves while building connections with others. But more than any public legacy, Olivia and Zachary left the private legacy of a love that had endured everything life threw at them. They had proven that 2 strong people could create something greater together than either could alone. That independence and partnership were not opposing forces but complementary ones. That seeing and accepting someone fully was the greatest gift you could offer. Their great-grandchildren told stories of them, passing down the tale of how Olivia had defended her ranch alone until Zachary appeared, how he had immediately seen her strength rather than trying to rescue her from it. They repeated the exchange that had become family legend. "I cannot change who I am," she had said, and he had smiled and replied, "I don't want you any different." Those words echoed through generations, a reminder that true love does not require us to be less than we are. It invites us to be fully ourselves while choosing to share that self with another. Olivia and Zachary's marriage had been revolutionary in its equality, in its genuine mutual respect, in its refusal to conform to gendered expectations. But at its heart, it had simply been 2 people who saw each other clearly and loved what they saw. The Montana landscape that had witnessed their romance, their struggles, their triumphs remained largely unchanged. The mountains still stood eternal and magnificent. The valleys still nurtured cattle and crops. The sky still stretched endless and blue. And in Concordia, now a proper city, but still maintaining its Western character, people still spoke of Olivia Gardner Lewis and Zachary Lewis, the rancher woman and the lawman who had built something extraordinary by simply refusing to believe that love required surrender of self. Their story became the gold standard for what marriage could be, what partnership meant, what it looked like when two people truly valued each other as equals. Young couples starting their lives together looked to Olivia and Zachary as proof that you did not have to choose between independence and intimacy, strength and vulnerability, self and other. You could be wholly yourself and wholly committed to another person, if that person wanted you exactly as you were. And so their love story lived on, not as a fairy tale of perfection, but as a realistic portrait of two imperfect people who chose each other completely, who worked through difficulties, who grew together, who built a life of meaning and purpose while remaining fundamentally themselves, who proved that the best partnerships are not those where one person dominates or both people compromise until nothing authentic remains, but where two complete individuals choose to walk side by side, celebrating each other's strengths, supporting each other's dreams, and loving without condition or reservation. In the end, that was Olivia and Zachary's greatest achievement. Not the ranch or the money or the public acclaim, but the simple, profound truth they lived every day. That being loved for who you truly are and loving someone else with that same complete acceptance is the greatest gift life offers. They had found that gift in each other, and they had treasured it until their final days. Their story was a testament to the transformative power of love that sees clearly, accepts fully, and celebrates completely. And that story, passed down through generations, continued to inspire long after they were gone, a reminder that true love does not ask us to change. It only asks us to be brave enough to be seen,